Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. They projected her words onto a giant screen. Let her rot. I'll make it look poetic. That's what my sister had texted about me. And she said it while using my face to raise $18,000 for herself. Hi, I'm Lauren, the quiet sister. The one they erased from the wedding guest list because I wouldn't fund her bridal jewelry. But I didn't disappear. I showed up with a lawyer. And what we revealed that day didn't just silence the crowd. It changed everything. Before we dive into the story, let me learn a bit about you. If you're a charming lady, please leave the number 1 in the comments. And if you're a dashing gentleman, leave the number 2. This way I can send you a special greeting. Now let's start the story together. The message came in without any punctuation. Just like my mother always spoke when she didn't want to deal with something directly. We've decided to keep things intimate. Hope you understand.
No, Lauren.
No love, Mom. Just that. I stared at it for longer than I cared to admit, as if blinking would change the words into something warmer. But they stayed the same, flat and final, like a door shutting without a sound. Outside, the rain had started again, steady tapping on the windows in that soft Portland rhythm. The kind of rain that didn't demand an umbrella but found its way into your bones anyway. I set my phone face down on the kitchen counter and let the silence fill the room. It was the kind of quiet that didn't comfort. It just reminded you that no one was coming. I poured myself a cup of lemon tea and reached for the mug I used most often, the one with the hairline crack near the handle. It had been a gift to my mother years ago, something Marina had picked out at an artisan market. Later, when Mom decluttered, she passed it to me in a paper bag without even looking up from her tablet. You like simple things, she said. I suppose that was her way of being generous. The mug still held heat, barely. I wrapped both hands around it and leaned against the kitchen sink. From here I could see the note card still pinned to my fridge. Ethan Miles, legal advocate, printed in soft gray ink. I hadn't called him. Not yet. But I hadn't thrown the card away either. 2 weeks ago, we were all sitting around the dinner table in Boulder, in that familiar dining room with the flickering light above and the same worn-out cushions no one ever replaced. The roast was dry. The wine was too sweet. Marina had just finished listing off spa packages and bridal fittings like she was planning a royal coronation. She was glowing in that curated way she always did. Cheekbones powdered, hair curled just enough to look undone. I had barely touched my plate. So, she said, setting her glass down carefully, the jeweler called today. The custom set is ready. I just need to wire the payment this week to secure it. She looked at me, not hopeful, not grateful, just certain. I didn't send the money, I said plainly. There was a pause, the kind that sits heavy over mashed potatoes. Then came the chorus. You what? Marina's voice hitched upward. Mom pursed her lips. Lauren, you said you'd take care of that. No, I said. You said I would. I didn't correct you. Dad folded his napkin, slow and deliberate. That's not how families work, June. He still called me June sometimes. I stopped correcting him years ago. I didn't agree to fund Marina's jewelry, I said. I said I'd think about it. It's not just jewelry, Marina scoffed. It's part of the vision. Then maybe the vision needs a payment plan. The conversation didn't end so much as fizzle. No one raised their voice. That wasn't our way. We specialized in withdrawal, quiet punishments, delayed exclusions, and it worked. I flew back to Portland 2 days later and didn't hear a word until today. I walked to the window and stared out at the overgrown garden. The rosemary bush had gone wild again, and the rain gave it a shimmer like silver thread. The house was small, but it was mine, every inch of it. Bought in my name, repaired with my hands. There were still patches of drywall that needed painting, and the hallway smelled vaguely of wood glue. But no one could take it from me. That counted for something. My phone buzzed again. A cousin I barely spoke to anymore had sent me a group photo from Marina's bridal shower. You looked missed, the message read. I zoomed in. There were balloons and soft pinks and creams, a dessert table with a tower of frosted cupcakes. Marina stood front and center, holding a bouquet of ivory roses. My name wasn't on the tag board behind her, not even among the special thanks. It was held 2 days ago. No one told me. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything or call anyone. I just deleted the family group chat and then, for some reason, opened Instagram. Marina had just posted a photo of her in a silk robe surrounded by 3 bridesmaids, holding a glass of sparkling water with a strawberry slice on the rim. The caption read, "Surrounded by love." Some people just don't get it, and that's okay. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I set the phone down beside the kettle, pulled the cardigan tighter around my shoulders, and sat down at the kitchen table. I didn't feel dramatic. I didn't feel anything really, just done. Some families fight loud. Ours just erases you quietly, one event at a time. And it was becoming clear I'd been fading from the frame for a long time. Maybe they thought I wouldn't notice. Maybe they hoped I'd just excuse myself from the picture. But I was still here, and I wasn't done being seen. Marina always had a way of making her messes look like growth spurts. Every breakdown was a breakthrough. Every inconvenience an awakening. And the family, they clapped for all of it. I used to believe it was because I made fewer mistakes. But eventually I realized it was because I made fewer scenes. My 16th birthday came and went like a Tuesday. No party, no photos, just a store-bought cake on the counter and a sticky note on the fridge that read, "Dinner in the oven. Happy birthday, kiddo." I had already taught myself not to expect much. But still, that night when I found Marina's handmade scrapbook of her sweet 16 under the coffee table, complete with glitter pens and photos of a backyard catered brunch, I felt something cold settle in my stomach. That scrapbook was still on Mom's shelf years later. My birthday card from that year, I think it ended up under a stack of coupons. I remember the way they always called Marina radiant. That was their word. She just lights up a room. Meanwhile, I was solid, smart, and occasionally grounded, which in our house meant dull. There was a garden brunch once back when I was 22 and home from college for the weekend. Everyone sat outside in white linen, sipping on green juice that Marina had researched for days. Dad toasted her for bringing wellness into the family. I had brought homemade scones. No one touched them. "Lauren's just more low-key," Mom had said when I asked about it later. "You know that's your strength. You're our steady one. Marina's expressive." That word again. I had just won a statewide essay contest that week. When I mentioned it over coffee, Dad smiled politely and changed the subject to Marina's upcoming meditation retreat. I brought the certificate home anyway, framed it, and set it on my dresser. 3 weeks later, it cracked when Mom knocked over a suitcase during spring cleaning. She apologized but never replaced it. And still I tried. I paid part of Marina's rent during her post-college soul-searching phase in Sedona. I helped her cover a flight to Costa Rica for a yoga training retreat. I even stayed up all night once to format her resume because she said font stressed her out. She sent me a thank you meme. That was it. One Thanksgiving, Marina broke down crying because she felt invisible. She hadn't gotten the lead in her yoga collective community dance circle or something equally baffling. Mom held her for half an hour in the living room, whispering reassurances. I was in the kitchen carving the turkey alone. That same evening, I overheard Dad telling Uncle James, "Lauren's tough. Marina's, well, she feels everything harder." Apparently, emotional fragility was more admirable than quiet strength. And when I got into Columbia with a full scholarship, I remember Dad pulling me aside at a family cookout. "Let's not make it a big deal," he said. "Marina's in a tough spot right now. Be sensitive." So I kept it small. I celebrated with a latte. Sometimes I think that's when the shrinking started. Not with one event, but with the choice to stay quiet over and over. I thought if I took up less space, they'd finally make room for me. Instead, they forgot I was there. This morning, I was scrubbing the kitchen sink when I heard Mom's voice float out of the phone speaker. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop. She had called and I missed it. The voicemail began playing without me touching anything. Some weird glitch. "She's just exhausting," Mom was saying, voice tight like she was holding back a sigh. "Lauren's always been intense. She drains the room. That kind of energy, it's heavy. Especially now with everything Marina's carrying." The message cut off there. I stood in the kitchen, sponge in one hand, lemon-scented soap trailing down my wrist, and let the words hang in the air like steam. Intense, draining, heavy. I never yelled, never cried at dinners, never demanded anything. But somehow I had become the problem anyway. I rinsed my hands, dried them slowly, and sat at the kitchen table. My tea had gone cold. Outside, a dog barked down the street, and somewhere a lawnmower hummed its usual Saturday rhythm. Then came the knock 3 times sharp. Even I didn't rush. I stood, pressed the wrinkles out of my shirt with the flats of my hands, and opened the door. Marina stood there in ankle boots and a draped beige sweater that looked more like a blanket than clothing. Her tote bag was slung casually over one shoulder. The words printed bold and breezy. Empath, entrepreneur, energy aligned. "Hey sis," she said as if no time had passed. "Wow, you look cozy." Her eyes scanned the room behind me like it was part of an exhibit. A faint smile pulled at her lips, that smile people give when they know they have the upper hand. She reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. And that's when I saw it. The necklace, a delicate gold chain with a freshwater pearl pendant. The one from the catalog, the one that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. "I hope it's not a bad time," she said sweetly. "I thought we could talk. You've been a little, off the radar." I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. The wind shifted as she passed me, bringing with it a scent of lavender and polished ambition. I watched her walk in like she belonged, and I wondered not for the first time how someone could take so much space and still claim they feel unseen. "This place is so grounded," Marina said, her voice floating just ahead of her body as she stepped into the kitchen. She paused dramatically, arms slightly outstretched like she was about to start a home tour. "It's got like charm." She said the word charm the way someone might describe a chipped teacup at a flea market. I didn't respond. Instead, I nodded toward the chair at the small breakfast table. She didn't sit. She walked slowly through the space, absorbing every detail. The mismatched curtains, the stack of books with no shelf, the drying rack of mugs next to the sink. I had always liked the quietness of my home, the way it made no demands. But under Marina's gaze, everything suddenly felt like it was asking to be judged. "Oh my gosh," she said, opening a lower cabinet without asking. "You still use a drip coffee maker? Vintage." She smiled at me like I was a child holding on to an old blanket. Then came the click. I turned around to see her setting up a small tripod, a ring light, compact and portable, unfolded with practiced ease. "What's that for?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Just a little content," she said, fluffing her hair. "People love rustic. It's authentic." Authentic. That word again. It had become currency. Marina angled her phone toward the chipped tile backsplash and lit a scent. She pressed record. "Hey angels," she began, voice bright, eyes wide. "I wanted to share a little moment with you from my sister's space. She's been through a lot, like a lot, and she's really in this season of healing, and honestly it's inspiring." I stood in the hallway just out of frame watching. She panned her camera toward the sink, then to the cracked ceramic mug I used every morning. The laundry basket I hadn't yet carried to the basement sat in the corner. She didn't crop it out. "This," she said, pointing gently to the peeling laminate counter, "is what starting over really looks like. It's not glamorous, but real transformation rarely is." Then she turned the camera on herself and smiled. Later that evening, after she'd gone into the guest room to meditate, I sat down on the couch and opened my laptop. A friend had tagged me in a comment. That's how I saw it. GoFundMe help my sister rebuild. The banner photo showed me laughing, head tilted back, holding a mug. Marina must have snapped it when I wasn't looking. Caption: "My sister has been through unimaginable hardship. With your help, we can give her the fresh start she deserves." It had already raised $6,340. The recipient: Marina Vale. I read the page twice, thinking maybe I'd misunderstood, that there was some version of this where it made sense, but the wording was clear. She had told the story the way she always did, with herself at the center, cloaked in compassion, standing in front of someone else's fire, pretending to hold the hose. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop and walked into the kitchen. Marina was pouring almond milk into a stemless wine glass because apparently even non-dairy needed presentation. She looked up as if we were just catching up. So I said, voice flat, "You launched a fundraiser." She blinked. "Oh, that? Yeah, I meant to tell you. You used my image, my name, without permission." She shrugged. "It's for a good cause." "You mean your PayPal?" She rolled her eyes, setting the glass down with a soft click. "I mean, let's not be petty. People want to help, and you, honey, are relatable. The vibe here, it's giving resilience." I didn't answer, I didn't need to. She continued, voice a little sharper now. "Look, you've always been the quiet one, the steady one, but let's be real, you weren't doing anything with your story. I just gave it legs. Then she said it. I mean, if you don't monetize your pain, someone else will. The room went still. In that moment, I felt something inside me shift. Not explode, not burn, just slide into place. I turned away from her and walked down the hall to my bedroom, opened the drawer of my nightstand, pulled out the business card I hadn't touched in months. Ethan Miles, legal advocate. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I typed, "Hi, I'm ready." I hit send. "It's not about money," Marina once told her followers, head tilted, hand over her chest like she was holding something sacred. "It's about soul exchange." Apparently my soul was worth $18,340. That's what the GoFundMe balance hit by the time I stopped refreshing the page. And every photo she posted, every caption soaked in pastel pity, made it worse. My face, my home, my silence, branded and sold like a lifestyle product. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I opened my laptop, poured a cup of coffee, and started compiling screenshots, timestamps, recorded clips of her live stream, copies of the fundraiser text before and after edits. I pulled the photo metadata, matched them to the hours she'd stayed here, opened my banking app, and exported the history. I even flagged the online payment flow, showing she'd linked the donations to her business wellness PayPal. For someone who claimed to be all about alignment, Marina sure left a crooked trail. 2 days before the wedding, I finally messaged the name I'd been avoiding. Ethan Miles, legal advocate. We'd met briefly at a local housing seminar. He'd handed out his card and told me I looked like someone who knew what quiet strength was. He responded almost immediately. His office was nearby, tucked between a co-op bakery and a bookstore that sold second-hand philosophy paperbacks. We didn't shake hands when I walked in. He just nodded once and pointed to the chair across from him. "Let's start simple," he said, sliding a legal pad toward me. "Tell me everything. Then we'll choose what matters most." For the next hour I did. I told him how she'd used my name and face, how the narrative wasn't just misleading, it was fabricated. I showed him the screenshots, the campaign's wording, the comments left by strangers who thought they were helping someone in crisis. The part that stung most, some of those comments called her a saint for sticking by such a broken sister. Ethan didn't react, not with pity, not with shock, just the quiet focus of someone who had seen worse but still found this unacceptable. "You've got a case," he said when I finished. "False representation, unauthorized use of likeness, emotional and reputational harm, and if funds were transferred under false pretense." He didn't finish the sentence, just handed me a pen. I signed the request for a formal cease and desist. He printed the letter while I sat there trying to steady my breath. When I returned home, the house felt even quieter than usual. No ring light, no eucalyptus spray, no Marina rehearsing her apologies in the hallway mirror. Just me. Aunt Evelyn texted late that night. "They've invited me to speak. Should I say no?" I stared at the message. The Evelyn I knew had always been neutral, observant, a presence in the corner of every family event, nodding but never interrupting. I could still picture her folding napkins at Marina's graduation party while Dad gave his fourth toast. For a moment I considered telling her to stay away, that it wasn't worth it, that no one ever listened anyway. Instead I typed, "Go. Watch." She replied with a single word. "Okay." The next morning I sealed the envelope, thick cardstock weighty in my hands, my name typed. No drama, no headline, just truth. Printed and signed. I stood at the kitchen window as light rain streaked down the glass. Portland skies always seemed to know when something was shifting. The coffee on the stove had gone cold, but I let it sit. There was something comforting in the way it stayed waiting without demanding anything. I looked around my home, mine in a way no caption could twist. The curtain still hung unevenly. The floor still creaked in the hallway, but it held me. Then I reached for my phone and texted Ethan. "I want to walk in with you. Let them see me." He replied 5 minutes later. "You sure?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. It wasn't about confrontation anymore. It was about making sure they knew I was never just the backdrop. The venue looked like it had been designed by Instagram itself. Glass panels glinting in soft evening light, eucalyptus garlands draped like curated ivy, and floral arrangements in muted creams that probably cost more than my monthly rent. It didn't feel like a wedding. It felt like a brand launch. Guests floated through the space in linen and pastel, sipping from stemless glasses filled with kombucha or lavender lemonade. The air smelled faintly of vanilla and polished wood, and somewhere a harpist plucked at a melody that felt both familiar and forgettable. I stood just outside the main entryway, watching the scene through a veil of condensation. My navy dress was simple, the kind with weight to it. I wore low heels, barely touched makeup, and the silver locket Aunt Evelyn once gave me. Flea market junk, Mom had called it. Tonight it felt like armor. Ethan stood beside me, calm and silent. He didn't ask if I was ready. He just nodded once. That was enough. We entered as the lights dimmed. Marina had just taken the stage. Her dress flowed like smoke, sage green, perfectly lit from beneath by soft uplighting. Her hair curled at the ends, her lips glossed to perfection. She looked like the cover of a wedding magazine aimed at wellness influencers. "Thank you all for being here," she said, hands clasped at her waist. Her voice carried easily, practiced, warm. "Tonight isn't just about vows or florals. It's about healing, about choosing love even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." The audience gave a soft hum of approval, that sound people make when they're being gently guided toward a feeling. I kept walking. Ethan peeled away toward the edge of the stage and gave a small nod to one of the assistants, clipboard in hand, headset askew. She hesitated, confused, then took the envelope from him and stepped onto the stage. Marina didn't notice at first. She was still speaking. "We've raised over $25,000 through our outreach initiative," she said, smiling wide, "to help displaced women rebuild. I'm proud to share my sister's story tonight. A story of resilience, transformation, and grace." The assistant handed her the envelope. Marina opened it mid-sentence, fingers delicate, still smiling. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the next. The smile didn't fall, it froze. Behind her, the projection screen flickered. The audience thought it was part of the presentation, but then it blinked again. Image. A screenshot of Marina's GoFundMe bio, my face front and center, labeled Displaced Sister. Next slide. A PayPal withdrawal form routed to Marina's business account, time-stamped. Then a private message in her handwriting. "Let her rot. I'll make it look poetic." There was a murmur. A chair scraped. A glass clinked too loudly against a table. Diane reached for Roger's arm. He didn't move on screen. Another message. "She's good for sympathy points. Keep the camera low. Show the cracks." Someone gasped. Another person said, "Wait, is this real?" Marina tried to speak. This is some kind of misunderstanding." But her voice cracked on the word misunderstanding, and no one looked away. I stood near the back, still quiet, watching. Then Aunt Evelyn rose. She wasn't on the program. She didn't wait for an introduction. She walked up the side steps slowly, adjusted the mic with one hand, and turned toward the audience. "For years," she began, her voice calm but full, "we painted over the cracks in this family, smoothed them with polite silence, covered them with curated smiles." The audience stilled. "We built a pedestal for one daughter," she continued, while quietly cutting the other down. "We called it balance. We called it family." She looked at Marina, then turned to face me. "I see you now, Lauren, and I should have sooner." I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just stood there and breathed. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt my feet fully on the ground. A few guests shifted. Some glanced at their phones. The live stream screen in the corner had stopped updating. Comments had frozen. The whole moment suspended in digital amber. Marina stepped back, her face pale beneath layers of powder. She turned quickly, stumbling slightly as her veil caught on the corner of the guestbook stand. A candle holder tipped but didn't fall. She vanished down the side aisle without another word. No one followed. Ethan joined me near the back. We didn't speak, we didn't have to. The last sound before I walked out wasn't applause or whispers. It was the faint buzz of the speakers being powered down. I didn't look back, and I didn't need to. The morning after the wedding, I watered the rosemary bush by the porch. The stems had gone wild since spring, but I didn't mind. The sun was out, so was the quiet. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like something was missing. The house was still small, still creaked in all the usual places, but it smelled like fresh lemons and clean laundry. And the chalkboard by the pantry had a new list written in my handwriting. Groceries, library returns, and a note to call the plumber about the rattling pipe in the bathroom. It was mundane, ordinary, beautiful. Across the street, Donna waved at me with her gloved hand, balancing a trash bag in the other. I waved back. I left some banana bread on the cleanup. I called, "You're going to spoil us," she laughed. "Don't tempt me." Her dog barked twice like he agreed. The sidewalk in front of my house was scattered with fresh chalk drawings. Neon hearts, crooked flowers, and a sun so big it stretched across 3 panels. Near the base of the mailbox, someone had written in large uneven letters, "You are seen." I smiled. Not the small kind I used to give at family dinners, the one that tried too hard to be polite. This one came from somewhere quieter. Inside, the kettle clicked off. I poured a cup of tea and sat by the kitchen window, watching the world go about its morning. A father adjusted a helmet on his daughter's head. A teenager jogged by with a golden retriever in tow. No one knew what had happened last weekend. No one asked. My phone buzzed. The name made my breath pause for half a second. Marina. The message was short. Things went sideways. Can we stay with you a few days? No apology, no explanation, just an assumption. Like the past had been paused, not burned. I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked in the reply box, waiting. I typed slowly. "There's no space for lies here anymore. I wish you peace." I hit send. Then I opened the thread and deleted it. It didn't hurt. Not like before. It felt like washing a window clean. Later that afternoon, I hung a photo in the entryway. I had found it in a dusty box while sorting through old bins the night before the wedding. It showed me at 8 years old, standing awkwardly on a school stage in a paper crown, holding a construction paper wand. In the corner, barely visible but unmistakable, was Aunt Evelyn clapping with both hands like she believed in whatever I had said. I stepped back and looked at the frame. Then I smiled again, not for show, just because I could. Outside, a breeze picked up, rattling the porch chimes. Kids squealed over a new drawing. Someone scribbled, "You matter." I used to crave silence as proof I hadn't upset anyone. Now I treasure it as a space I get to choose. I spent years knocking on a door that wasn't mine. Now I've built one and I don't have to explain who holds the key. The photo still hangs by my doorway, and sometimes I pause to look at it. Not because I miss the past, but because I finally see the girl I used to be, and I'm proud she kept going. The silence in my home no longer feels like absence. Feels like peace I chose. Sometimes family isn't about who shares your name but who shows up when it counts. And healing doesn't always come with closure. It comes with clarity and the courage to keep walking, even when no one claps. We don't have to carry what was never ours to hold. If this story spoke to something inside you, I hope you'll share your thoughts. Maybe someone out there needs to hear your version.